Hey everyone, I just wanted to touch base with you with a little mid-semester video one, primarily to touch base on last week's content as far as your lab activities and discussion, because it's there's some really tricky concepts in there, and I just wanted to review a few things based off of your previous discussions that you've had about this activity already in class with your peers, and just wanted to make sure everyone's on the same page. Secondly, I just want to take the opportunity to be able to speak with you all in a sense and give you an idea of what to expect moving forward. Again, giving you a little bit more feedback, expanding on what I've previously said before in your announcements that have been posted and emailed to you. So yeah, again, great discussions this past week. Things that are really great to see that everyone or some of you are starting to implement a bit more is some of you are starting to ask questions, and not just general questions being like, oh, did you wear blue shoes or green shoes when you did that lab activity, but more along the lines of questions that spur on discussion, and in particular discussion about the finer concepts of the lab activity itself. So for example, leaving a comment that says, hey Johnny, I totally agree, or I really like how you included that idea, you know. Those comments are nice to make, but they don't necessarily spur on discussion or explore the concepts, and that's really what I'm looking for at the end of the day, is that you're trying to explore ideas related to the lab. So if you want an idea of how that garners some marks as far as your discussion and participation there, the way that'd look is if like a hey, that's good job sort of thing, without much substance, but you did participate, you know, that might get you a half mark out of 10. So, you know, is it really worthwhile to get spend your time doing that? Maybe, but not necessarily. You know, what gets you more points would be a thoughtful question asked to a peer based off their point or off their post that relates to the lab or explores an idea or concept that they posted already. And if I see that you're asking a question that would add to a peer's learning or understanding of a post that they've made, that would get you 2 points. So again, it's a little dynamic week to week on what gets you marks depending on what the requirements are for that week. But ultimately, if you are asking questions and generating discussion and making quality posts yourself, you're going to be maximizing your marks. Okay. Similarly, what I've really liked seeing so far would be the increased use of APA referencing and including references, both your lab manual but also out of your lab manual, so external sources. In order to really count, though, as using proper APA formatting, you'll need to start referencing in your post, so in your in-text citation. So, you know, science, one study looked at how you know, wearing red shorts makes you faster than wearing black shorts. Johnson & Johnson 2020, end quote. And then at the bottom of your post, you want to include the link to the reference. You don't necessarily have to post a full APA reference. I think it's more useful for us here in class to see a link to your resource, so any one of us can just quickly click on the link and see what you've been citing. Okay, hopefully that helps explain a little bit more what I'm looking for there, and I've already seen a number of you do it. If you see any of my posts, typically they'll be demonstrating this, right? And ultimately, again, just capping off last week in general, some pretty tricky concepts to be introduced to the first time around, and I want to encourage most of you to post earlier in the week if you're not already. And one of the main reasons is you can't really engage in a discussion if you're posting at 10 p.m. on Sunday. I realize some weeks that works for some of you, and that's what you need to do, and that's one of the perks about having a setup of an online course like this is you get to go through the course material as you would like. But again, if you're really looking to get any decent marks for your discussions in the second half of the course, I would strongly encourage that you try to get an initial post up sometime between Wednesday to Friday, you know, as a suggestion. Return for replying to your peers that have posted on your posts, or maybe have replied to your posts or your replies to their post, and then, you know, maybe on Sunday just revisiting briefly to see if there's any new posts. Or that being said, subscribe. You know, I sound like a YouTuber here, but you know, just subscribe to the threads that you interact with. You'll get an email as soon as someone else interacts on that thread and reply to you, and it's a lot easier way to keep track of what posts you need to reply to and get back to before the end of the week. Okay, so ultimately those are things generally that I'm seeing more of that I like, in particular the learning process through discussion. I think that happened last week better than I've seen in other weeks, and I want to encourage more of that. And again, don't be afraid if you don't fully understand something when you post. You're allowed to give your best hypothesis or your best guess, support it with external resources, but ideally you're utilizing material from the labs. That's ultimately what I want you to do. I want to see you see the concept in the lab, apply it in these lab discussions. Okay, that's why I pose these questions. It's not for you to have to do more external research, although it's helpful if you do. But the ideas and principles to answer these questions are right there in your lab manual. You just kind of need to connect the dots. And so again, if you see me asking questions on your discussions, reply to them. They're very important in the sense that usually I'll be asking a question to help correct you. Maybe you're on the wrong path as far as what you've posted, and I just want to make sure you understand the concept. So I'm going to give you breadcrumbs through questions. You know, what do you think about this? Do you think this is necessarily always true? Whatever I might post. And the idea is to get you reassess what you posted in those particular aspects of those questions, and then move forward. Okay, after reassessing, and maybe that means you have to change what you're doing. Maybe I ask a question purely to get you to dive deeper into what you've already said correctly. Okay, so again, those are usually the questions that I'll ask. If I already see your peers, this is another good reason for you to engage in your peers discussions. If I see your peers asking you really great questions, I'm going to leave you to discuss. I want to see more discussion between all of you. If I'm hopping in the thread more often than not, again, it's might be because I want to spur on deeper thought, redirect your thought, or your peers aren't engaging, or all of you aren't engaging each other enough with questions and comments and discussion. So then I'll step in to do that. So usually if you don't see me, it's because you all are doing a great job. If sometimes I just want to pop in to encourage your further learning too. So just because I'm making comments isn't a bad thing. Okay. Hopefully, again, that gives you a little bit more clear idea of how I'm engaging you on your chat threads, and what I'm looking for, and what you all can do to help each other out and learn and grasp concepts. Okay. Yeah, and I hope the main point with all of this that you're hearing from me is that it's okay to be wrong. It's okay to not get it right away. We're all here to learn, right? I don't expect you all to just know the right answers, or to necessarily be able to connect all the dots all the time. That's what we're here to do. And so what I really want to see is, I want to see all of you engage in discussion with myself, with your peers, and connect those dots for yourselves. So as you're starting to learn, I want to see that process, and the only way I can do that is if you keep replying through discussion and engaging in posts. Okay.